Welcome back, everybody. This is episode... I have a special guest today. This is Roy. He's going to help us with episode 2, which is the wheels and the forks and the headlight. So let's get started. Brand new 5 stars. There's one side. There's 2 nuts. Last time I put the nut inside of the rim and everybody said that was wrong. So this time I'm going to put them on the outside. Okay, I like to inflate it just a little bit. Push it around again. We just really want to make sure the bead is centered and going to seat. Both wheels are done, and now we can put bearings in the hubs. I'm using a socket that only touches the outer race. Now we can install the front hub. Just line the hub up. This one's done. I also have a new sprocket for the rear. This will tighten itself when we put it on the bike and pedal it. I'm going to put on the rear wheel, so first I need to take off the side covers. They used a throttle tube adjuster for the bottom bolt. This chain is going to go right in the garbage. Remove the exhaust. Now we got to remove the chain. This chain is also going to be replaced. Loosen the brake adjuster and remove the brake cable. Ooh, my baby's awake. Remove the brake plate because we're going to use the brake plate on the new wheels. While the tire's off, we're going to replace the shocks and remove the rear fender. We have 2 new shocks. These are going to lower it just a little bit. They're not as low as Mini, but they're shorter than Magnum. These do require a little spacer. New shocks are mounted. Now we can clean the brake plate and put on the rear wheel. Now we have to mount the rear sprocket. Now we have to figure out axle spacing. Alright, that's too much. Try this stack. Perfect. Now we have to figure out axle spacing on the swing arm. Back wheel is done. Now we can move on to the front. Now we're going to take off the whole front end and the front wheel, put on new forks, and swap on the new rim. First thing I'm going to do is disconnect the front brake. This cable is completely rusted, so I'm just cutting it off. Now we want to remove the controls, headlight, anything we're going to reuse. I'll be rewiring this bike, so I'm cutting all the electrical off. Now we just have to remove the forks and we can replace them with the EBRs. To remove the forks, first thing we have to do is remove this nut. Typically I use a big spanner wrench or a crescent wrench, but it was not on tight. Then these two, which are 13. I usually just flip the triple tree around and screw these back in. Now remove this guy and look out because there may be loose bearings in here that we don't want to lose. Yes, there are. Whenever there are loose bearings like this, I use a magnet and pull them all out. Now we can take the top nut all the way off. Huh. There we go. And get rid of the 30-year-old grease. Get a little screwdriver and see if you can tap it in. Okay. If you use the screwdriver to pry it, you will break your screwdriver. So just tap it in. So I'm gonna end up using the puller. This will make it really easy. There we go. Now we have to do the bearings. First I fill this with marine grade grease. You can take the upper race and spin it a little to lube everything up and get it centered. Grease is really sticky, so that's really helpful in putting all the balls here. Slide the lower clamp in and tighten the top nut. We'll make it easier if they're all the way up. Then you have to bend this a little bit. There we go. Start these nuts. These bolts are too long and they hit the top nut, so I'm going to shorten them a little bit. Put a nut on the bolt where you want the end of the threads and then cut the excess off with a metal saw. Use a file to clean up the head. Now screw the nut off and it'll clean up the threads. Perfect. Now the bolts go through but not too far. Now we're going to put on the EBR heads. I have a little guest with me today. This is Roy. He's helping out. Okay, open these guys up and pull them around. You can also take this off and slide them down, but I just pulled them around. Tighten them so they're still movable, but they stay in place. Okay. We left this loose, so now I kind of put it right in the middle and tighten it up. Handlebar and headlight are on. Now we gotta do the front wheel. We have to make sure the spacer's right. Perfect. So we need a little spacer on this side and a little spacer on that side. Let's try 2 on that side. I think we'll need 2 spacers and 2 washers on this side and 1 spacer on the other side. That spacing is good. Front end is all done thanks to this little guy for his help. We did front end, rear end, handlebars, and the headlight. Thank you for watching. Next time we're going to do the engine, controls, and we'll see what else.